When nobody's watching, Riley Morgan pushed her cleaning cart down the empty hallway of Tech Vista Solutions, her headphones blasting upbeat music into her ears. It was 11 p.m. on a Thursday, and the building was completely empty. Or so she thought. She had been working the night shift as a janitor for 3 months now. Ever since moving to Seattle to start fresh, the job paid the bills while she figured out her next move. But tonight, after a surprisingly good day where everything had gone right, she felt light, happy. As she entered the main conference room on the 20th floor, Riley couldn't help herself. The space was huge, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights. The song in her headphones hit the chorus, and she started moving. First, just a little shoulder bounce, then a full hip sway, and before she knew it, she was spinning her mop like a dance partner. This is ridiculous, she laughed to herself, but she kept going. She moonwalked across the polished floor, did a dramatic twirl, and even attempted a splits pose with the mop held high above her head. Her brown hair, usually tied back, come loose and swung around her face as she moved. She was completely lost in the moment, singing along badly to words she half remembered. When she accidentally kicked her cleaning bucket, water sloshed onto the floor. "Oh no, please no," Riley muttered, yanking out her headphones. She grabbed towels from her cart and started mopping up the mess, checking nervously to make sure no security guards had heard the commotion. What she didn't know was that someone had indeed been watching. 20 floors above, in his private office, Cameron Blake sat staring at the security monitor with a smile spreading across his face. The unexpected invitation. Cameron had been working late, as usual, reviewing quarterly reports and preparing for tomorrow's investor meeting. He was 29 years old and already running one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the Pacific Northwest. The pressure was constant, the expectations crushing, and moments of genuine joy felt like distant memories. He had pulled up the security feed out of habit, making sure everything was secure before heading home. That's when he saw her, a janitor in the conference room, dancing like nobody was watching. Because nobody was supposed to be watching, he found himself laughing, actually laughing, for the first time in weeks. The way she moved was so unself-conscious, so purely happy. When she kicked the bucket and scrambled to clean up, he felt a strange urge to go down there and tell her it was okay. That her moment of joy was worth a little spilled water. Cameron rewound the footage and watched again. There was something magnetic about her authenticity. In a world where everyone around him wore masks and calculated every move, here was someone being completely, beautifully herself. He made a decision that would surprise even him. He picked up his phone and called building security. "Hey Mike, this is Cameron Blake. There's a janitor working the 20th floor right now. Can you get me her name and employee file?" "No, nothing's wrong. Just curious about something." 10 minutes later, he had the information. Riley Morgan, 26 years old, hired 3 months ago. Perfect attendance record, no complaints. The photo on her employee badge showed a young woman with warm brown eyes and a hesitant smile. Like she wasn't quite sure she belonged there. Cameron sat back in his chair, tapping his pen against the desk. Tomorrow morning, he had a packed schedule, but he was going to make time for something unexpected. The coffee shop encounter. Riley arrived at work the next evening, tired from running errands all day, but ready for another quiet night of cleaning. She changed into her uniform, gathered her supplies, and headed to her assigned floors. What she found instead was a note taped to her cart. Simple, handwritten on company letterhead. "Riley, please come to the executive coffee bar on the 25th floor at 8 p.m. tonight. You're not in trouble. Promise. Cameron Blake, CEO." Her heart stopped. The CEO knew her name. The CEO wanted to see her. Riley read the note 5 times, looking for some sign this was a joke. But the letterhead was real, and the signature looked genuine. She spent the next 3 hours in a panic, checking the clock every 5 minutes. Had someone seen her dancing last night? Was she about to get fired for inappropriate behavior? Should she just leave now and avoid the embarrassment? But curiosity and a stubborn streak won out. At exactly 8 p.m., Riley stepped off the elevator onto the 25th floor. The executive level was beautiful. All modern furniture and expensive art. She felt completely out of place in her janitor uniform. The coffee bar was a sleek space with a professional espresso machine and comfortable seating. Cameron Blake sat at a small table, 2 cups of coffee already waiting. He stood when she entered. "Riley, thanks for coming. Please, sit down." He was younger than she expected, with dark hair that looked like he'd been running his hands through it all day, sharp blue eyes, and a genuinely warm smile. He wore jeans and a simple button-down shirt, no tie, sleeves rolled up. Riley sat carefully, feeling like she might break something. "Am I in trouble, sir?" "Cameron. Please call me Cameron." "And no, absolutely not." He pushed one of the coffee cups toward her. "I wanted to apologize, actually. I was reviewing security footage last night, and I saw you in the conference room. I saw you dancing." Riley's face went bright red. "Oh my God. I am so sorry. I know I shouldn't have been playing around. I'll never do it again, I swear." "Stop," Cameron said gently. "You have nothing to apologize for. Actually, watching you dance was the best part of my entire week." Riley blinked. "What?" "The honest conversation." Cameron leaned back in his chair, wrapping his hands around his coffee cup. "Can I be honest with you?" "Really honest?" Riley nodded slowly, still not sure where this was going. "I started this company 5 years ago with 2 friends and a crazy idea. We wanted to build something that mattered, that made people's lives better. We wanted to create a place where people actually enjoyed working." Paused, looking tired. "Somewhere along the way, I lost sight of that. This place became all about growth metrics, investor returns, market share. Everyone here is so focused on looking professional, on saying the right things, on playing the game." He met her eyes. "Then I saw you dancing with a mop at 11 p.m., completely alone, just because you felt like it. You weren't performing for anyone. You weren't trying to impress anyone. You were just being genuinely, authentically happy. And I realized I couldn't remember the last time I felt that way." Riley sat very still, processing his words. "I still don't understand why you called me up here, because I want to know your secret," Cameron said simply. "How do you stay that joyful working a night shift cleaning job? What do you think about while you're working? What do you see when you walk through this building that I'm too busy to notice?" The question was so unexpected, so sincere, that Riley found herself answering honestly. "I think about how every space tells a story. Like the conference room where I was dancing last night. There were empty coffee cups from a late meeting, and someone had drawn a smiley face on the whiteboard. That told me people had been working hard but also trying to keep spirits up. The break room on the 15th floor always has fresh flowers that someone brings from home. The developers on 12 stay so late that I've started leaving them encouraging notes." Cameron was listening intently, leaning forward. "You leave notes?" "Just little things. 'You're doing great,' or 'Don't forget to sleep,' with a smiley face. Nothing major." Riley felt self-conscious. "This probably sounds silly to you." "It sounds like you see this company more clearly than I do," Cameron said quietly. "Tell me something. If you could change one thing about how this place operates, what would it be?" The unexpected proposal, Riley thought carefully. She knew she should probably give some safe, generic answer. But something about Cameron's openness made her want to be equally honest. "People here are scared," she said finally. "I hear them talking when they don't know I'm around. They're stressed about hitting targets, worried about layoffs, afraid to share ideas that might sound stupid. Everyone's so busy trying to look successful that nobody's actually connecting with each other." She warmed to her topic. "Like you have this amazing space with beautiful common areas, but nobody uses them because they think taking a break means they're not working hard enough. You have suggestion boxes, but they're always empty because people don't believe anyone actually reads them. Everyone's so focused on looking busy that they've forgotten how to actually be productive and happy." Cameron was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked Riley. He pulled out his phone and started typing notes. "Keep going," he said. "What else?" For the next hour, Riley found herself talking about everything she'd observed in 3 months of invisible night shift work. The way the designers on 10 kept separate from the engineers on 12, even though they were supposed to collaborate. The way the kitchen staff threw away massive amounts of catered food, while some employees skipped lunch to save money. The way new hires looked lost and overwhelmed because nobody had time to properly welcome them. Cameron listened to everything, asking questions, taking notes, occasionally laughing at her observations. Riley had never felt so hurt in her life. Finally, Cameron set down his phone and looked at her seriously. "Riley, I want to make you an offer. And I know it's going to sound crazy." "Okay," Riley said cautiously. "I want to hire you as a special consultant. Your job would be to keep doing what you're doing, seeing what everyone else misses, but also to work with me directly on improving company culture. You'd attend some meetings, give me honest feedback, help me understand what's really happening here. The pay would be significantly better than your current position, though you could keep your night shift if you wanted the flexibility." Riley stared at him. "You want to hire me a janitor? As a consultant? Because you saw me dancing with a mop?" Cameron smiled. "I want to hire you because you're the only person in this entire building who told me the truth tonight. Because you see things clearly. Because you still have joy and hope and honest observations that I desperately need. So yes, because you danced with a mop. That mop dance told me you're exactly the kind of person I need around here." Riley opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. "Can I think about it?" "Take all the time you need," Cameron said. "But Riley, keep dancing. This place needs more of that." The decision, Riley left the meeting in a daze. She finished her shift on autopilot, her mind spinning. This couldn't be real. CEOs didn't hire janitors as consultants. This kind of thing didn't happen to people like her. But when she arrived at work the next evening, there was another note on her cart. This time it included a formal offer letter, with a salary that made her gasp, and a handwritten addition at the bottom. "No pressure. But I meant every word. We need your perspective. We need your honesty. We need someone who still remembers how to dance when nobody's watching. Think about it, Cameron." Riley stood in the empty hallway, holding the letter, looking at her reflection in the dark windows. She thought about her life right now, safe and small and predictable. She thought about this impossible opportunity, scary and uncertain and thrilling. Then she thought about last night, spinning with her mop, completely free and joyful. When was the last time she'd felt brave enough to take a risk? When was the last time someone had seen her real self and valued it instead of judging it? She pulled out her phone and typed a message to the number on the offer letter. "I'll do it. But I have one condition. I keep my night shift too. Some of the best observations happen when people think nobody's watching." The response came 30 seconds later. "Deal, welcome to the team." "Riley, let's change some things around here." Riley smiled, tucked the phone into her pocket, and pushed her cart down the hallway. But this time, she left her headphones off. She was too busy thinking about tomorrow's first meeting, about all the possibilities opening up, about the strange and wonderful turn her life had just taken. And yes, she did a little spin with her mop. Some habits were worth keeping. The first day of something Neurally stood outside the glass conference room on Monday morning, clutching a notebook and trying to calm her racing heart. Through the transparent walls, she could see a dozen executives in expensive suits, all looking polished and professional. She glanced down at her own outfit, a simple navy dress from a discount store and flats she'd owned for 3 years. She felt like an imposter. Cameron spotted her through the glass and waved her in with an encouraging smile. She took a deep breath and opened the door. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Riley Morgan. She's joining us as a special consultant on company culture and employee engagement," Cameron announced. "Riley has a unique perspective on Tech Vista that I believe will be invaluable as we plan our next phase of growth." The room fell silent. A woman with silver hair and a sharp expression spoke first. "I'm Patricia Hamilton, Chief Operating Officer." "Forgive me, Cameron, but what exactly are Ms. Morgan's qualifications?" Riley felt her cheeks burn, but Cameron answered calmly. "Riley has been observing this company from the inside for 3 months. She sees patterns and problems that we miss from our executive bubble. Her qualification is honesty and insight." A younger man in a gray suit snorted quietly. "We paid consultants $70,000 last quarter for culture analysis. Are we saying a janitor saw things they missed?" "Yes," Cameron said simply. "That's exactly what I'm saying. Riley, please sit down." Riley took the empty chair next to Cameron, aware of every eye on her. She opened her notebook with shaking hands. Speaking up, the meeting continued with discussions about quarterly targets, product launches, and market expansion. Riley stayed quiet, taking notes and trying to understand the corporate language everyone used. But as the conversation went on, she noticed something troubling. Every time someone mentioned the employees, the staff or the team members, they were talking about numbers, productivity metrics, retention rates, efficiency scores. Nobody mentioned actual people. Finally, when Patricia suggested cutting the company's wellness program to save money, Riley couldn't stay silent anymore. "Excuse me," she said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "Can I say something?" Cameron nodded. "Please." Riley's voice was steadier than she felt. "I understand that numbers are important, but I think you're missing something crucial. Last Tuesday night, I found Jason from the development team asleep at his desk at 2 a.m. He'd been there for 16 hours straight. When I woke him up, he said he couldn't go home because he had a deadline and was terrified of letting his team down." She looked around the table. "On Thursday, I heard two designers crying in the bathroom because they'd just been told their project was being scrapped after months of work, and nobody had thought to tell them directly. They found out through an email. On Friday, the customer service team ordered pizza together because it was someone's birthday, and they all pitched in $5 each because there's no budget for team celebrations anymore." The room was completely silent now. "You're talking about cutting the wellness program to save money," Riley continued, gaining confidence. "But that program includes the mental health counseling that 3 people on the marketing team are currently using. It includes the gym membership that helps your security chief manage his diabetes. It includes the stress management workshops that your newest hires say are the only thing keeping them from quitting." She met Patricia's eyes directly. "So yes, you'll save money, but what will it cost you?" The pushback Patricia's expression was icy. "That's a very emotional response to a business decision, Ms. Morgan. Feelings don't pay the bills." "No, but people do," Riley replied. "And people who are supported work better, stay longer, and care more about their work. I've seen it. The teams that feel valued produce better results. The ones who feel disposable are just waiting for a better offer." A man at the end of the table, wearing an expensive watch and a bored expression, leaned forward. "I'm Greg Thornton, VP of Finance. Let me explain how the real world works, sweetheart. We have shareholders to answer to, profit margins to maintain, and competitors who will crush us if we're too busy worrying about hurt feelings." Riley felt the condescension like a slap, but she kept her voice level. "I understand that, Mr. Thornton, but can I ask you something? When was the last time you talked to someone who actually builds your products? When did you last eat lunch in the regular cafeteria instead of the executive dining room? When did you last notice that the light bulbs are burned out on the 3rd floor, or that the air conditioning doesn't work properly on the east side of the building?" Greg's face reddened. "That's facility management's job, not mine." "Exactly," Riley said softly. "Everyone here has divided the company into departments and roles and responsibilities, but the people working here don't experience it that way. They experience a whole environment, and right now, that environment is telling them they're not valued. They're just cogs in a machine." Cameron was watching Riley with something like admiration. "Keep going." The challenged Riley took a breath and opened her notebook. "For the past 3 days, I've been doing something simple. I've been asking people what would make their work life better. Not big things. Small, practical things. Do you want to hear what they said?" She didn't wait for permission. "The developers want better chairs because half of them have back problems. The customer service team wants noise-canceling headphones because the open office plan, which makes it impossible to hear calls clearly. The designers want natural light instead of fluorescent bulbs that give them headaches. The writers want flexible hours because some of them work better at night. The analysts want clear project goals because they waste time guessing what success looks like." Riley looked around the table. None of these things cost much money, but they would make a massive difference in how people feel about working here. The problem isn't that you don't have resources. The problem is that nobody's asking the right questions. Patricia was clearly annoyed now. "Cameron, I appreciate creative thinking, but we have actual business to conduct." Perhaps Ms. Morgan could observe and provide written feedback rather than disrupting our meetings. Actually, I think Riley is exactly what this meeting needed, Cameron said firmly. We've been so focused on the view from up here that we forgot what it looks like from the ground. Riley, what would you suggest we do? Riley hadn't expected that. She flipped through her notes nervously. Okay, here's an idea. What if for 1 month, every executive spent half a day working in a different department? Not observing, actually working. Answer customer calls. Test the software. Sit in the entry-level training. Pack shipping boxes. See what the daily reality actually is. Greg laughed outright. That's ridiculous. We have actual responsibilities. So do they, Riley said quietly. And if you did this, you'd understand why your policies don't work in practice. Why your productivity targets are unrealistic. Why people are leaving for competitors who pay the same but treat them better. The decision point. Cameron stood up, commanding everyone's attention. We're going to do it. Riley's challenge. Every person at this table will spend 4 hours next week working in a frontline role. No phones, no special treatment, no shortcuts. You'll report back the following Monday with observations. The protests erupted immediately. Patricia was shaking her head. Greg was arguing about schedule conflicts. Others were exchanging incredulous looks. But Cameron held firm. This isn't optional. If we're going to lead this company, we need to understand it. All of it. Meeting adjourned. As people filed out, muttering and unhappy, Patricia stopped by Cameron's chair. This is a mistake, she said coldly. You're letting someone with no business experience influence major decisions. The board won't like this. The board hired me to grow this company, Cameron replied. And I can't grow it if I don't know what's broken. Riley sees things we don't. That's valuable. After Patricia left, Cameron turned to Riley. You okay? Riley was trembling slightly. I think I just made a lot of enemies. You made them uncomfortable, Cameron corrected. That's different. Change always makes people uncomfortable, he smiled. You were brilliant, by the way. I mean it. The week of reality the following week was chaos and revelation. Patricia spent her 4 hours in customer service and was shocked by how many calls were complaints about website glitches that engineering claimed were fixed. Greg worked in the shipping department and pulled a muscle lifting boxes. Finally understanding why the staff requested better equipment, the VP of Human Resources spent time in the entry-level training program and realized it was outdated and confusing. The chief technology officer shadowed the cleaning staff and discovered that the trash in the tech labs included expensive equipment being thrown away because nobody wanted to deal with paperwork. To recycle it properly, Cameron worked in the cafeteria kitchen and learned that food waste was high because the menu didn't account for dietary restrictions. So people bought food and threw half of it away. Riley spent the week checking in with everyone, taking notes and preparing for the follow-up meeting. She also continued her night shift, though now some employees recognized her and stopped to chat. Word had spread about the janitor who spoke up to executives. Some people admired her. Others thought she was crazy. On Friday night, as Riley was cleaning the 14th floor, a young woman from marketing approached her hesitantly. Are you Riley Morgan? The woman asked. Yes, Riley replied. I just wanted to say thank you. I heard about what you said in the executive meeting, about how people here feel. I've been thinking about quitting because I feel so undervalued. But knowing that someone actually said something to the leadership gives me hope. So thank you. The woman walked away before Riley could respond. But similar encounters happened 3 more times that night, people seeking her out. Sharing their stories, hoping for change, Riley realized with a mix of pride and terror that she'd become something she'd never intended, a voice for people who felt voiceless. The follow-up meeting, the Monday meeting, was tense. Everyone filed in looking tired and thoughtful. Patricia had bags under her eyes. Greg was moving stiffly from his shipping department experience. Cameron started the meeting simply. Let's go around the table. What did you learn? One by one, the executives shared their experiences. Some were defensive at first, making excuses for the problems they'd encountered. But as more people spoke honestly, the tone shifted. Patricia admitted that the customer service team was fielding complaints about issues she'd thought were resolved months ago. We have a communication breakdown between departments. Engineering doesn't tell customer service when problems are being worked on, so the service team looks incompetent to customers. Greg acknowledged that the physical demands of several jobs were harder than he'd realized. We need better equipment, and we need to listen when people say they're injured. I found incident reports from 6 months ago that nobody followed up on. Others shared similar revelations. The meeting that Cameron had scheduled for 1 hour stretched to 3. Finally, Cameron turned to Riley. "You've heard all of this? What do you think we should do?" The bridge builder really had prepared for this moment, but it still felt surreal to have a room full of powerful people waiting for her answer. "I think you need a bridge," she said. "Right now, there's the executive level, and there's everyone else, and information doesn't flow between them. You need people in the middle who can translate both ways. People who understand the daily reality and can also understand business needs." She pulled out a proposal she'd written. "I suggest creating a culture council. 10 employees from different departments and different levels. They meet monthly with executive leadership. They bring concerns, suggestions, and observations from their areas. They help test new policies before they're rolled out company-wide. They're the bridge." Patricia was nodding slowly. "That could work. If we choose the right people, let the employees nominate them," Riley suggested. "People know who actually listens and who solves problems. Trust them to choose their own representatives." For the first time since Riley had met her, Patricia smiled. "That's actually smart." The conversation flowed from there. Ideas built on ideas. Greg suggested quarterly town halls where executives answered questions directly. Someone else proposed a transparency initiative where major decisions were explained, not just announced. Another person brought up rotating leadership through different departments for a broader perspective. By the end of the meeting, they had a plan. Not perfect, but real. Concrete steps toward change. As people filed out, many of them stopped by Riley's chair to thank her or suggest follow-up conversations. The resistance from the first meeting had transformed into something else. Cautious respect. The personal cost that evening. As Riley was gathering her cleaning supplies, Cameron found her in the supply closet. "Big day," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "Huge day," Riley agreed. "I still can't believe they listened. They listened because you gave them something real. Not corporate speak. Not theories. Actual solutions based on actual problems." Cameron paused. "How are you really doing?" "This has been a lot." Riley sat down on an overturned bucket. "Honestly, I'm exhausted and scared. Some people think I'm great, but others think I'm overstepping. I heard 2 people in the break room today saying, 'I'm only getting attention because you have a crush on me.'" Cameron's expression darkened. "That's not true, and they know it." "Maybe, but it's going to be a rumor anyway." Riley looked up at him. "I need to ask you something. Why are you really doing this? Why take a risk on someone like me?" Cameron sat down on a nearby stool, their eyes level now. "Because I was drowning in my own success. I built something big and impressive and completely soulless. Then I saw you dancing with a mop, and it reminded me why I started this company in the first place. To make something good. Something real. You're not a risk, Riley. You're the best decision I've made in years." The air between them felt charged. Riley looked away first. "We should be careful," she said quietly. "People are already talking. If there's anything between us, it'll undermine everything we're trying to build." "You're right," Cameron said, though he didn't move. "We should keep things professional, completely professional." Riley agreed. They sat in silence for a moment, both knowing that the connection between them was already beyond professional, and both unwilling to acknowledge it yet. The small victories over the next month, changes started happening. Small at first, new chairs arrived for the development team. The broken air conditioning was fixed. The lighting on the 3rd floor was replaced. The cafeteria menu expanded to include more dietary options. The Culture Council held its first meeting. 10 employees nominated by their peers. Riley attended as a facilitator, helping translate between corporate language and plain English. The executives listened, really listened. A suggestion box was replaced with a digital platform where ideas could be submitted and tracked. Employees could see which suggestions were being implemented and why others weren't feasible yet. Transparency replaced silence. Greg from finance started eating lunch in the main cafeteria once a week. Patricia began doing monthly coffee meetings with random employees. No agenda, just listening. The other executives followed suit. The changes weren't revolutionary, but they were real. And people noticed. Riley saw it in small ways. People smiled more in the hallways. The complaint wall in the break room, which had been covered in sticky notes about problems, now had sticky notes about solutions and celebrations too. The tension that had hung over the building like fog began to lift. One evening, as Riley was restocking paper towels in the bathroom, she overheard two employees talking. "I don't know what changed, but this place feels different lately. Like they actually care about us now. I heard it was that janitor girl who spoke up. She told the executives what we've been saying for years. Whatever happened, I'm glad. I was about to start job hunting. Now I think I might actually stay." Riley finished restocking in silence, then went out to the hallway and did a little victory spin with her mop. Some habits were definitely worth keeping. The turning point 6 weeks into her new role, Riley was called to an urgent meeting. She arrived to find Cameron, Patricia, and 3 board members she'd never met before. Her stomach dropped. This was it. They'd decided she was too much trouble. But Cameron was smiling. "Riley, we have news. Our employee satisfaction scores just came back from the quarterly survey. They're up 30% across almost every metric. 30% in 6 weeks. One of the board members, a distinguished older man with white hair, spoke up. "Ms. Morgan, I'll admit I was skeptical when Cameron first told us about you. A janitor consulting on corporate strategy seemed frankly absurd." Riley braced herself for the criticism. But the man continued, "The results speak for themselves. Not just the satisfaction scores. Productivity is up. Voluntary turnover is down. Even our customer satisfaction ratings have improved because employees are more engaged. You've created measurable impact." Patricia, who had fought Riley at first, nodded. "The Culture Council alone has generated 23 actionable ideas, 12 of which we've already implemented. Employee engagement in company initiatives is at an all-time high. This is working." Cameron leaned forward. "Riley, the board wants to offer you a permanent position. Director of Employee Experience. You'd lead the Culture Council, work directly with department heads, and have authority to implement changes that improve how people experience working here. Full benefits, competitive salary, your own office." Riley felt dizzy. "Director, I don't have a college degree," she said automatically. "I'm not qualified for a director position." "You're the most qualified person we have," the white-haired board member said. "You have what can't be taught, genuine empathy, clear observation, and the courage to speak truth to power. Everything else can be learned. What do you say?" The choice that changes everything, really, looked around the room at these powerful people waiting for her answer. 3 months ago, she'd been invisible. Now they wanted to give her authority to shape the company. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Of course," Cameron said. "Take as much time as you need." That night, Riley sat on the 20th floor, looking out at the city lights, just like she had the first time Cameron had watched her dance. She pulled out her phone and called her best friend Jackie. "They offered me a director position," Riley said without preamble. Jackie screamed, "That's amazing. Why don't you sound excited?" "Because I'm terrified," Riley admitted. "What if I fail? What if I was just lucky so far? What if I'm not actually good at this and I mess everything up?" "Riley," Jackie said firmly, "when have you ever backed down from something because you were scared? You moved to Seattle with $800 in a duffel bag. You spoke up to a CEO when you were still a janitor. You challenged executives who have been doing this for decades. Fear didn't stop you then. Why would it stop you now?" Riley closed her eyes. "Because the higher I climb, the further I have to fall. Or, Jackie said. The higher you climb, the more people you can help. The more change you can make? Isn't that why you spoke up in the first place? Because you saw people hurting and you wanted to help? Riley thought about Jason sleeping at his desk, the designers crying in the bathroom, the employees who stopped her to say thank you, the small victories that were adding up to real change. You're right, she said quietly. You're absolutely right, was the answer the next morning. Riley walked into Cameron's office wearing the same navy dress from her first executive meeting. But this time, with her head high and her shoulders back. I'll take the position, she told Cameron. But I have conditions, Cameron smiled. I'm listening. First, I keep spending time on all the floors, talking to people. I can't lead from an office if I don't know what's happening in the real world. Second, any policy that affects employees has to be tested with real employees first. No more top-down mandates that sound good on paper but fail in practice. Third, we create an honest feedback mechanism where people can criticize leadership, including me, without fear of retaliation. Done, done, and done, Cameron said. Anything else? Riley took a breath. Yes. We need to address the rumors about you and me. People are saying I got this position because of favoritism. It's undermining both of us. Cameron's expression became serious. What do you suggest? Transparency, Riley said. We tell people the truth. That yes, we've become friends through this process. That yes, there's mutual respect. But that every decision is based on results and impact which are measurable and documented. We don't hide our connection, but we don't apologize for it either. We just commit to being professional and accountable. Cameron stood and walked to the window. There's something I need to be honest about, Riley. It's not just friendship and respect. I have feelings for you. Real feelings. And I've been trying to ignore them because of the professional complications, but I think you deserve to know the truth. Riley's heart was pounding. Cameron, you don't have to respond, he said quickly. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just being honest. But I want you to know that regardless of my personal feelings, I believe in you professionally. The board believes in you. The results speak for themselves. You earned this position. Nobody gave it to you. Riley walked over to stand beside him at the window. I have feelings too, she admitted quietly. But you're right about the complications. If we pursue this, everything we've built becomes suspect. People will say it was all just a romance disguised as business. So what do we do? Cameron asked. Riley smiled slightly. We be honest. We work hard. We prove through actions that this company is better because we're fighting for the people who actually make it run. And maybe someday, when we're not boss and employee anymore, we figure out what else we could be. Cameron looked at her with something like wonder. You're remarkable, you know that? I'm a janitor who danced with a mop and accidentally changed her life, Riley said. If that's remarkable, the world is stranger than I thought. 6 months later, Wargan sat in her new office, reviewing the latest Culture Council proposals. When Patricia knocked on her doorframe, "Got a minute?" Patricia asked. "Of course. Come in." Riley gestured to the chairs across from her desk. Still not quite used to having her own desk or her own office, Patricia sat down, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. I wanted to apologize. When you first started attending our meetings, I fought against your ideas. I thought you were naive and unqualified. I was wrong. Riley set down her pen. You were protecting the company the best way you knew how. Maybe, Patricia said, but I was also protecting my own ego. I've been in corporate leadership for 25 years. Having a former janitor point out my blind spots was humiliating. So I resisted. She met Riley's eyes. But you were right about almost everything. The Culture Council works. The Transparency Initiative works. Treating people like humans instead of resources works. Our metrics prove it. Thank you for saying that, Riley said sincerely. And thank you for being willing to change. That takes courage, Patricia smiled. You know what's funny? My daughter is in college studying business. I told her about you, and she said, Mom, that's the kind of leader I want to be someday. Made me realize I'd been teaching her the wrong things about what matters in business. After, Patricia left. Riley returned to her proposals, but she couldn't focus. In 6 months, so much had changed. The company had implemented over 40 improvements based on employee feedback. Turnover was down 40%. Productivity was up. The company was thriving, but personally, things were complicated. The growing tension, Riley and Cameron had maintained strict professionalism for 6 months. They were friendly in meetings, collaborative on projects, but never alone together socially. Never crossed any lines. It was working professionally. Personally, it was torture. Riley felt his eyes on her during presentations. She caught herself looking for him in crowded rooms. They had inside jokes from late-night strategy sessions that made them both smile at exactly the wrong moments. During serious meetings, the attraction hadn't faded. If anything, working closely together had made it stronger. Riley saw how hard Cameron fought for his employees now, how he'd changed from a metrics-focused CEO to a people-focused leader. She respected him more every day, and that made the distance between them harder to maintain. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jackie. "Lunch today? You sound stressed." Riley smiled and replied, 12:30? Yes, please. An hour later, she was sitting across from Jackie at a small restaurant, pouring out her frustrations. So let me get this straight," Jackie said, stealing a French fry from Riley's plate. "You and Cameron have feelings for each other. Everyone knows it. But you're both pretending you don't because of professional optics?" "Yes," Riley said miserably. "If we date, people will say I slept my way to my position. They'll say every decision I make is compromised. They'll say he's playing favorites. Everything we've built will be questioned." "Who cares what people say?" Jackie asked. "You've proven yourself 100 times over."